Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cambridge Photography Week and our on-demand content. Thanks for visiting. Delighted to have Robin Stemp with us today to talk about her art photography journey. Robin is a photographer and writer, but let's not leave it to me to tell us about Robin. Let's have Robin tell us yourself. So, hi, Robin. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. Hope you are.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time out.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
It's great. You're great. You can be part of the week. Let's start off with just telling us a bit about yourself. So, what do you do? What do you do, and how did you get to this point? Because you used to be a journalist, is that right?
Yes, right. Art journalist and a painter. For most of my life, I was a painter, and I still think like a painter rather than a photographer. So I'm not a technical person at all.
That's interesting. I like that. Okay.
And I do a bit of technique, obviously, with Photoshop, but not very much. And I painted for a long time, and then I decided that I wanted to sort of do both photography and painting, so I did. And for some time, I had exhibitions with photography and painting in them, and then the photography took over when digital photography came in. I got hooked.
What was it? What was the hook? What was it about it?
Well, I like the idea that you didn't have to go down to Boots or whatever it is to get your photographs.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, you could do it, and you could discard what you wanted. But I don't do anything clever with Photoshop. I crop and I straighten. And because I'm interested in natural light and how things really are. And so I don't lighten or darken or, so what you see is what you get.
And that's interesting. You talk about thinking like thinking more like an artist than a photographer. Tell us a bit more about that.
Art journalism, yeah. I worked for several magazines, and it was wonderful because in the 80s and 90s, somehow everything was possible. All the things I did because I phoned up somebody. And there's no question of, have you got a training? I think I said, oh, yes, that sounds interesting. And so I wrote about art history. I wrote about practical things, how to paint, reviews of shows. It was great fun. So I did that from 1984 until about the beginning of this century. So over 20 years. And then I stopped it and I decided to concentrate on my work, my own work. Because being an art journalist is fun. I mean, it's great fun, and I enjoyed it. But you're talking about other people's work, and your own work gets rather put to one side. So I thought, right, well, I'll concentrate on that. So that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
And you're part of Cambridge Open Studios, is that right?
Yes.
So do you have a studio set up then?
No, they just come into the house. I have a studio, which is an absolute, I always describe it as an asthma-inducing dust-filled tip.
Okay, yeah.
Which I'm always trying to get round to cleaning up. And something happens. The light comes in through the window, and I say, "Oh, I've got to photograph that." And then the duster gets left behind. Never mind. So they come into my studio. It's a very small studio. And where all the downstairs is the open studio. And my daughter is a painter, Isabel Stemp.
Okay.
So she has the dining room, and it's great fun.
That's good. So there's a bit of a makeshift element to it, isn't it? Because you can have a studio in many places, can't it? It doesn't have to be an actual studio. And that itself can feel quite limiting, can't it, in terms of setting something up.
Exactly. I mean, my daughter's studio is up a ladder in the attic. Well, you can't take the public up a ladder.
Yeah, that's true. Health and safety issues massively there.
Exactly.
So what is it you said about how does your art influence your photography? You touched on some of it already, but yeah, tell us a bit about how art influences your photography.
Well, I've always been interested in still life. As a painter, I was interested in still life and buildings. And I still am. I mean, still life, interior, and buildings are the three things I photograph. I obviously I photograph the sea or the countryside as well, but then that's really for my own pleasure, not to exhibit. I'm just so fascinated by the way the light, and I know this is an obvious thing to say because all photographers are interested in the light, but the light can change. The same object on the same shelf can be changed completely by the light. So you have a light that comes in, like this time of year is wonderful for light because it comes in from the side, the sun's going down, so it comes in and it's bright, and it's absolutely fabulous. But the winter light is so interesting too because it can be very flat, but it can have a sort of peaceful quality about it. So that interests me, and that goes through everything from the still life to the buildings. And what I find is, I see a building, I can't look for a muse. The muse finds me, and I will go into a building and think, wow, this is it. And there are two in the moment which fascinate me. One is Polanic Castle in Ukraine, which of course I can't visit at the moment, sadly. The other is All Saints Church, Chevington, Suffolk.
Okay.
And I like simplicity. I don't like anything complicated. They're both they're both quite big buildings, but they're very simple, direct. They've got very, and they're painted white or cream, and they're sort of shapes. I'm interested in shapes. And the fact that the fascinating is that the light will come into a building, and it will change the color. The building can be pure white walls. The light will just change the color. So if it's low, it sort of looks greenish or greyish or pinkish or whatever. I find that absolutely fascinating.
And you talked about how if you had a balance between, what you see in the technical side of your photography, you're more driven by the art side of your brain than the technical side of your brain.
That's right.
Which that's interesting because then actually, you're making sure you're getting the shot right there and then, as opposed to taking lots and they maybe in post production doing your editing to enhance that shot.
Yeah. No, I just point and shoot.
Yeah. Which is why I suppose you said you liked it when digital photography came along, because it made it a lot more accessible to do that point and shooting.
Yeah.
You can see it immediately, can't you?
The only time I do fiddle around is when I'm doing an illustration. I've written some short stories about what I think might have happened to Chekhov's characters after the end of the plays.
Okay.
I'm doing thinking about some illustrations, so I may muck about with those. That's not real. I mean, that was something that happened a long time ago and didn't really happen.
Yeah, I like that though. It's the imagination there is
that's right.
Fantastically creative.
So I'm not going to say to people this is how it was, because it obviously wasn't.
So when did you join Cambridge Open Studio then?
I can't remember. I've done it for so long. I don't know, 20 years. I simply don't know. I can't remember. But it has always been a very great pleasure.
What do you like about it, by being part of it and having a studio kind of open to the public?
Well, to be prosaic, you anything you sell. You don't have to give anybody commission. No gallery commission, which applies. You meet all sorts of interesting people. One year we had some people from Bradford, and they were going around the country looking at open studios. I mean, you would never ever meet them normally because we don't go to Bradford.
Yeah,
they were absolutely delightful. We made some very good friends through open studios. You meet all sorts of interesting people. Once we had an iPad stolen, which was not very nice.
No,
but it's my fault for leaving it around, I suppose. But I think it's a freedom to do what you want, and you can hang your pictures where you want to have them. You can prop them up against an armchair. You can put them on the table. You do what you like. I think the freedom, which is always very good.
Yeah, lovely. And how, and in terms of talked about, when you've got your setting up a studio, have you, I suppose people can think it can take a lot to set up a studio, but kind of, have you got any kind of any thoughts and tips about how someone could set up their own studio?
Well, if you haven't got a studio, clear the room as much as you can of objects, but still make it look like a home, so that people come in and they see your work and they say, "Oh, that would look nice in my sitting room or dining room or whatever it was."
Yeah, good idea.
And I think that's one of the nice things about an open studio, is that you can show pictures in context on the stairs, or in a hall or wherever, with other things, with other bits of furniture. Whereas in a gallery, I'm not knocking galleries. I mean, they're very important and great things to show, but they're on a wall and not with any bits of furniture. I think people who don't buy pictures a lot might get a bit confused, possibly.
Yeah,
it's just
fair
so much
enough.
choice.
Actually, it's just very true. Actually, it's absolutely with galleries. Of course, there's definitely a very good place for galleries. But you're right. I think it's having something which is more cozy, something which feels maybe a little bit more welcoming to more people.
Exactly.
Galleries could be seen as maybe a little bit not intimidating, but a bit like, well, I need to be really into my art to be able to go to a gallery.
Yes.
I like what you say about things being in situ, which is very good. In terms of if someone's thinking about buying something. Should we take a spin through some of your shots then?
Okay.
Let's do that. So we've got a few to talk through. What's our first one?
Now this one is a room. A friend of mine said, "I'm sure I've been in that room," and I said, "Well, I'm sure you haven't, because it's 10 inches tall, about 10 inches tall by about 2 feet wide."
Oh, brilliant!
And you'd have to be mighty small. I bought it from a doll's house shop that was closing down its model side, and I adapted it. And I am a terrible, terrible carpenter and a DIY person. I'm appalling, but my husband's very good, and so he does all the sort of the intricate bits, and I just slap on a bit of paint. I love big white spaces. I mean, we live in a small house, and it's not empty. I mean, it's full of books and music and everything. And so this room is a room. I don't know if I could live in it, but I would like to live in it. It's sort of one of the things. And the cello is very small, so it's a miniature, but the light is natural, and it comes in. I have it. I haven't got it there at the moment. I put it away, but I have it normally by my studio window, which faces south.
Okay.
And so the light is always shifting, which is lovely. And this was a September morning.
And for something that, ironically, something that is so small, you get that real big sense of space in it. I wouldn't have said that was I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought that was a real size room. Very impressive.
Yes. Well, I use them a lot, those sort of things. And the idea came about because some American poets called Deborah Greger and William Logan found a doll's house on a skip, and they thought of me immediately. So they gave it to me. I'm a great skip fan. I don't know about you, but I love skips. And I'm making a model at the moment of a modern house. And I'm foraging all the skips, so bits of wood.
Brilliant. Well, that's lovely. So, I wouldn't have thought that was a miniature room at all. That's really, really nice shot. Let's go on to the next one. So tell us a bit about this one.
This is my studio shelf, which is sideways onto a south-facing garden. And like a garden, I mean, it's like all these terrace houses. It's a backyard with pretensions, but my husband's a brilliant gardener.
Okay, yeah.
So it looks, and the light, south-facing light comes in, and again it moves around. And I call this weighing up ideas. There are bits of paper on there. That apparently was used in China for weighing up opium.
Okay.
I don't weigh up opium now. I weigh up bits of paper. And the books are very dirty, smelly books. The sort of books you wouldn't ever want to have in your house. But I got them. I think I got some from a skip actually, and I painted them with Dulux white, and so that they're sort of objects, they're sort of still life objects. And I just thought it was rather good idea to have weighing up ideas, because one has to weigh up ideas in life.
Absolutely. And it's often things aren't you have to weigh up ideas is not as one dimensional as people like to have you think. Like the media, for example, is not really isn't black and white, is it? So weighing up ideas is a big part of our life.
Exactly.
When you when you talked about these weighing opium, it's made me think that actually it's probably not surprising that you're a journalist or you're a writer, because there's an element of story which I think isn't that important to your photography, because it's going to spark interest to somebody who maybe buys it and goes, well, actually those used to weigh opium, at one point.
That's right. I mean, everything has a history. What most things, old things do, and that was in a junk shop. I love junk shops too. Anything like skips and junk shops.
What is it you like about that? Is it kind of discovering these treasures? Or what is it you like about junk shops and skips?
Well, you can get very simple things, and as I said before, simplicity is what I'm after. I love simple things, and things I can muck about with. So if I've got a chipped jug, which cost me 50p, it doesn't matter if I go and paint it white or cream or blue or whatever it is. I can't remember what. And I feel a freedom. I also buy things from Gabacosa, an antique shop, rather more valuable. But I don't muck about with those, obviously. But the junk shop things, like the skip things, you feel total freedom. You can only improve them. It's rather good.
Is that freedom and simplicity? I like that. Is that? I think that makes me feel that it's because I think often one can think maybe things need to be all very well prepared. I mean, not to say you put preparation into what you do, but that thing about sometimes people can overcomplicate things, and feel restricted in what they're doing because they want it to be, perfect, and that stops them doing things like, taking more photos, doing things like this. So that simplicity and freedom is, I suppose, is it connected to also why you like digital photography, because you can see it straight away, that experimentation and not being worried about getting things wrong. Although you never get things wrong, you're just learning all the time, aren't you?
But that's one thing about being a digital photographer, is if you get something wrong, you just delete it.
Exactly.
And I always take 2 or 3 shots of something, so with any luck I get it right. But I remember my daughter was at Leeds University doing theology. One of her tutors said to her, "Perfectionism kills." I mean, obviously, get it as good as you can get. Obviously, you do it as good as you can do. But if you go on fiddling around, you'll kill it.
It's true. It's just procrastination, isn't it? Really, it's. I mean, God, we could have a whole separate conversation about the, how the education system can, gear us up to trying to be perfect, and getting the exam questions right, and it kind of reduces that ability just to experiment, I think. But yeah, that's for another time. There's plenty of TED.
Well, I was expelled from school
talks around that. What's that? Sorry.
I was expelled from school at 15. So.
Oh, really?
And I've never taken an exam since, which is great fun if I'm talking to somebody in Cambridge who's got more degrees than I've had hot dinners.
Oh yeah, that's another story. Maybe we leave that to the show when we meet up at the show.
Yeah,
Cambridge Photography Show. We'll have a chat about that. That's fascinating. Let's go on to the next one then. Is this in the same?
Well, that is the same
studio as well. Yeah.
Again, a very simple cup. With a bit of net curtain over it. And I love the way the light comes through unexpectedly. And light is so wonderful because it's unexpected. And it does its own thing. You can't, where you can control natural, not natural light. But I like the fact that natural light cannot be controlled. It just does what it wants to do, and it's come in and come through, and then come out again. And I like that way. And it's nothing to do with me. I'm not saying it's a brilliant photograph because it's me. It's not me. It's the light. And again, that's, I say, south-facing, abutting window.
Well, you say it's not you, but you're still capturing it, aren't you? I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? About being able to capture those moments in life that, you know, can tell us something about that moment. Yeah, it's
yes. Well, I have a camera on my desk.
Okay.
And I say the house is very small. I'm sitting in a sitting room, looking through to my studio now. And I'm then next door to the kitchen. So if I were cooking lunch, suddenly the light looks interesting, I can whiz in next door, take a photograph, just snap it. So it's that unexpectedness and that quickness. But you've got to be you've got to be watching out for it, obviously.
Well, I mean, it's you love doing it, don't you? So it's probably quite easy to always be watching out for something.
Well, you are. I mean, I carry a camera everywhere.
Yeah, lovely.
Even going to post a letter or something, I can carry a camera. Oh, this is breaking all the rules of having simplicity. This is called the natural world of Newtown.
Okay.
And where we live, and they're all bits of apple or twig or whatever I found in the street. And again, the white books. The white books are on the shelf underneath, and I've taken quite a few photographs of those white books on their own. And again, the light was September light, early in the morning, and I love the way it just caught all those bits and pieces.
But what you've done is you've used resources which are quite close to hand, haven't you? Say in the area in Newtown where you live.
Yes.
You've got these things, I imagine, quite easily.
Absolutely.
To then set up your shot.
You go for a walk and you pick up an apple or something.
Come back with all sorts of treasures.
That's
especially
right.
if you walk past the skip.
And now I have to, my back's gone, so I have to walk with a walker. The walker's got a shopping basket on the front. That's marvellous for collecting stuff.
Perfect. Oh, brilliant. You can bring back 3 times as much as you usually do.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Now, this is the same shelf, but in a winter light.
Yeah.
And they're books from G. David. I love G. David. There's a bookshop in Cambridge.
Okay.
And they're books about the history of the Vatican in Latin. So it's not my idea of bedtime reading, but they are rather beautiful books. And the pots came from a junk shop. I think 1 or 2 were given to me by a friend. And the light is very flat and bland, but I think it's because of sort of stillness. It's not dramatic at all. I love the way the light shapes the pots, and it's just very still, peaceful.
Well, it looks so different to say it's the same location. It looks so different to the other shots.
Exactly.
I suppose that stillness also feels quite apt for books that have been around for a very long time. You know, they look like they've been still for a very long time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
So it looks like, it feels like stillness feels quite apt for these books, because those books have been around, been still for a very long time.
Well, they have been around a very, very long time, and since the 18th century.
Wow.
So some of them are falling to pieces. But I'd say I like the stillness and the winter light.
Yeah, it's lovely, very soft. Let's go on to the next one then. So,
yeah, this one is a early morning in, I think, April. With the glass, the light coming through the glass and the lemon, And I like the idea of having a shooting. I love shooting black and white objects in colour. And the lemon is just a bit of yellow there. I love the way that the light makes the shadows on the walls.
Yeah.
Shadows which are not deep shadows; they're sort of almost translucent shadows, transparent shadows.
Yeah, it's true. Kind of ghost-like in a way.
Yeah.
Great.
Now, this is a window which I made out of a bathroom cabinet.
Oh, brilliant.
Or my husband made it out of a bathroom cabinet, rather. He took off the back of the cabinet so that I can open the window. And that's one of my favourite cups. It's from G. David. No, not G. Gabacosa.
Okay.
And when I want a view, and I haven't got a view, I mean, if I'm in Cambridge, central Cambridge, suddenly want to see, can't get to the sea, back before lunch, I paint it. And I painted that sea, and it opens up. So it's all a fake.
That's really nice, though. It's lovely, because you get some of the pleasures of the sea without actually being there. That looks like an October, like probably an autumnal sea there. It looks a little bit choppy.
That's right.
But quite calming with a cup of tea or coffee by the window.
And I did another one which was had a sea raging and with a little cup. And the idea was the world outside is raging, but the cup's sitting, we're still here. He's just keep calm.
Yeah, lovely. Love that. I love that. It's brilliant.
Now, this is one of my favourite castles, is Polanic Castle in Transcarpathia in Ukraine. And our eldest son is married to a Hungarian lawyer. They live in Budapest. He's an expert on Transcarpathia. He's written a book on Transcarpathia, and he's used to be a breakfast time speaker on breakfast television in Ukraine.
Okay.
No longer, of course. And this is a bit of the castle which I love because it looks so much like sort of shapes stuck together, doesn't it? It looks.
Yeah.
It's a palish, very, very pale cream. And I just love the shapes of it. And the simplicity. So it's a large, very grand castle, but it's very, very simple shapes.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I can't get there now.
No, it's lovely. And I suppose this is like, a good example of how. Well, I think everything you've shown, but particularly this, is that there are lots of opportunities to take that shot, isn't there? And something that some people might see as being, well, I'm not sure. I wouldn't even think about taking that shot. Kind of the artist in you, I think, looks at this and goes, yeah, that's something that needs to be captured.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think again, it's a question just sort of picking up your camera and pointing and shooting.
Mm.
And the other thing about digital things, if it's a complete failure, well, just delete it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many photographs I've taken of Polanic Castle. I've been there 3, maybe 4 times, and each time it looks slightly different and wonderful.
And I suppose that when you look at Cambridge as well, that's one can go, well, I've taken shots in Cambridge, and I've been there already, done that. But actually, every time you go back to a point, it's always going to be slightly different, isn't it? And we've had similar conversations with. I think we spoke to Keith, who's being part of this, and he runs CambridgeImages.co.uk and does a lot of photography in Cambridge, and he goes back to the same spots often because it could be a very different shot indeed.
Exactly.
Is this still in Ukraine, this one?
No, this is All Saints Church, Chevington in Suffolk.
Oh, lovely.
And it's got 2 chancel arches and clear glass windows, and I love it. And it's always very still and it was very empty. I hope it still is. And that's white, but the walls are white there, but the sun coming in, the light coming in, makes it look, pinkish, yellowish, greenish, greyish, which I love. And I love doing bits of it. So I've done, I don't know how many bits of it. We have a friend who used to be the vicar there, called Chell, and she was very enthusiastic about my pictures of Stevington Church. But I used to be.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry, I used to be crazy about the front of the Fitzwilliam. I used to, for about 10 years, I used to cycle down at 5 o'clock in the morning and photograph the front when in the summer, and then the winter have the winter light. It was absolutely fascinating. And then these muses are funny because they come and you're absolutely hooked, and then they go. And I don't photograph the Fitzwilliam anymore. Maybe I will one day.
Maybe it will return. Maybe the music.
Maybe it will.
You'll do it.
It'd be very convenient if it did.
Yeah. Great. Well, that's all of the shots. I think let's be good to just finish off really with. I mean, it's been great chatting with you, and it's lovely hearing your story, but also your thoughts behind the different shots. And I love that. I love what you said about simplicity and freedom. But let's finish off by any kind of thoughts, if anyone is thinking about maybe getting into art photography or started in art photography, wants to do more. What has kept you going? And being so dedicated to your craft.
Well, I'm the wrong person to talk to about training because I've never had any training for anything. My advice to anybody who wants to get to art photography is get a camera. I've got 3 cameras, 2 Panasonic Lumixes with a Leica lens, and the other one's a Sony with a I can't remember. Got a good lens. The lenses are important. Just take your camera and do what you want to do with it. But you must, if it doesn't excite you, it probably won't excite anybody else. So don't sort of say, "Oh, people like cats. I don't like cats, but I go to photograph cats." Because if you don't, no one will want to know. So decide what excites you and pursue it. Just decide what you want to do and go for it.
Yeah, lovely. Well, thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Well, of course, we'll be seeing you at the Cambridge Photography Show at the Hilton, Cambridge on Saturday, 8th of October. You'll be involved in a panel discussion about setting up your own studio, and also you'll be exhibiting some of your pieces, won't you? So yeah, it's definitely worth everyone getting down to the Hilton. Tickets for the exhibition are free. We do actually run workshops as well, and they are £20 each. So yeah, thanks very much, Robin. Really appreciate
it. Thank you. I much enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, me too. And I'll look forward to seeing you later in the week.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Bye bye.